In the dusty heart of Makoko, where tin roofs rattled with the whispers of Lagos wind and the lagoon lapped quietly at tired canoes, a pot simmered like magic. Smoke curled from beneath the iron tripod, rising into the humid morning air. The scent of pepper, crayfish, and slow-cooked beef wafted through the alleyways like an invitation to the soul. Her name was Amaka 22, fierce-eyed and full of quiet resilience. She moved around her makeshift food stand with the elegance of a dancer and the precision of a soldier. Her scarf was always tied just right, red, faded but proud, and her bare feet kissed the hot earth like they belonged there. Each morning, long before the sun stretched across the lagoon, Amaka was already awake. She didn't have much, but she had her cooking pots, her mother's old pepper grinder, and a small wooden sign that read, "Mama's Kitchen Food that Fills the Soul." And every morning, like clockwork, her little stand became the heart of the neighborhood. Okada riders, construction workers, market women, and street kids lined up with small naira notes clutched in their hands. She knew them all by name. She knew who liked more pepper, who didn't like bones, and who needed a little extra meat because the baby at home was sick. No one ever left Amaka's stand hungry, even if they couldn't pay. "Amaka, you be better person," said Mama Risi, the fish seller with a limp, as she slurped her morning amala. Amaka just smiled. "Nagade duam." But not even she could explain the strange pull she'd been feeling lately, like something was about to change. Something big. She didn't know if it would be good or bad, but every time she stirred her pot, her heart stirred too. Then, that morning, as the sun finally broke through the dusty haze, a sleek black SUV appeared out of nowhere. It didn't belong there. Too polished, too quiet, too expensive. Children paused, conversations froze. Even the smoke seemed to hesitate. The tinted window rolled down slowly. A man stepped out, tall, with skin the color of rich mahogany, dressed simply in jeans and a white linen shirt. He wore no watch, no chain, no airs, but his eyes, sharp, observant, searching, marked him as someone from a different world. His name was Dare Okonjo, the billionaire son of one of Nigeria's wealthiest real estate moguls. A man whose face graced magazine covers, but whose heart had grown tired of boardrooms, red carpets, and women who smiled for his bank balance. He had come here chasing something different, something real. And though he didn't quite know what he was looking for, the moment he saw Amaka flower on her cheek, scolding a young boy who tried to steal Puff his world, paused. She didn't notice him at first. She was busy turning the meat, humming a low tune her mother had taught her when she was just a child. The same song her mother used to sing before she vanished without a word, leaving Amaka with a sick grandmother and a recipe book stained with oil and tears. "Madam," Dare said, finally speaking. She turned. Their eyes locked. For a moment, the bustle around them faded. The world, loud, messy, chaotic, went silent. "Wetin you want, chop?" she asked, wiping her hand on her wrapper. No fear, no awe, just a woman asking a man if he was hungry. Dare smiled. For the first time in years, it was real. "I don't know," he replied, "but something tells me. I came here for your food." She raised an eyebrow. "Na so dem dey talk when dem want chop for credit. If you no get money, no worry, just talk true." A few of the bystanders laughed. Amaka didn't. She was already scooping stew into a bowl. Dare reached into his pocket and handed her a 5,000 note. "Keep the change." She looked at the money, then at him. "Rich man dey find local food. Wonders shall never end." And as he sat on a broken plastic chair beside her stall, eating with his hands, surrounded by flies, street kids, and sizzling pots, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. But what neither of them knew was that this meeting was not chance. It was destiny. And destiny was just getting started. Dare Okonjo wasn't supposed to be in Makoko. By the terms of his father's estate and the expectations of the Okonjo dynasty, Dare was supposed to be at the high-rise boardroom of Okonjo Group, reviewing luxury condo blueprints, not sitting on a cracked plastic chair, licking stew off his fingers in the middle of a Lagos slum. But here he was, and something about it felt right. The locals watched him curiously, a polished man with soft palms and foreign manners, digging into pounded yam like he'd done it all his life. The kids whispered and giggled. The older ones muttered, "He be government pikin'? Maybe no. I be not journalist." Dare didn't answer anyone. His eyes were on Amaka. She moved with ease, flipping a kara with a wooden spoon, tossing insults at Chidi, the taxi driver, for trying to jump the line, then turning sweet and gentle when she bent to feed a toddler whose mother had just passed out from hunger. It was like she had fire in one hand and honey in the other. "Your food," Dare said, wiping his mouth with a tissue he brought from his car, "tastes like home." Amaka glanced at him, then scoffed. "Nah, every Lagos man they talk like that when dem wan toast roadside girl. Oga, a beg. Enjoy your food, and waka your waka." Dare laughed, genuinely. He liked that she didn't fawn over him. No pretense. No fake accent. She had no idea who he was, and he wasn't about to tell her. "Do you always cook like this?" he asked. "Every day?" She frowned. "Abi, you wouldn't hire me? I be chef, yes. Nah, my hustle. My mama teach me. She day cook before she vanish." He leaned forward. "Vanish?" Amaka's lips tightened. She didn't like talking about it. "Long story. She just disappeared one night. Left me and my grandma with her pot and pepper." There was pain in her voice. Deep pain, wrapped in years of silence. Dare recognized it because he carried the same. His mother, too, had vanished, not physically, but emotionally after a scandal that nearly ruined their family's name. She was once a village girl, too, before marrying into wealth, but she died bitter, quiet, and alone. Dare changed the subject. "So what's your dream?" he asked. Amaka gave him a strange look. "Dream?" "Yes. If money wasn't a problem, if you could do anything in the world, what would it be?" She was silent for a moment. Then she pointed across the water to a patch of land that overlooked the lagoon. "I'd build a real kitchen there, with proper roof, stove, chairs, feed people, not just to fill belly, but to give them dignity. You sabi wettin' hunger they do person mind?" Dare nodded slowly. Her answer wasn't about fame or money. It was about service. Something he hadn't heard in a long time. He pulled out a small notepad from his pocket, pretended to jot something down. Amaka eyed him. "You dey write book?" He smiled. "Just taking notes. Maybe I'll tell your story one day." She laughed, wiping sweat from her brow. "A beg. Make my story no end inside one Nollywood heartbreak." But in that moment, neither of them could predict what fate had in store. Their meeting was no coincidence. The silver pendant she wore, that twisted feather hanging from her neck, caught a glint of sun and shimmered briefly. Dare noticed it for the first time. His smile faded. "Where did you get that necklace?" he asked slowly. Amaka touched it protectively. "My mama give me. Say make I never remove am." Dare's heart skipped. Because somewhere, in his father's old box of family heirlooms, was a drawing, a sketch of a pendant, the same twisted feather, worn by a woman his father once loved, before everything fell apart. But he said nothing. Not yet. Instead, he stood up, brushed his jeans, and handed her a second 5,000 note. "For tomorrow's meal," he said. She raised an eyebrow. "You wan-turn investor?" He chuckled. "Maybe." And as he stepped back into his SUV, the smell of stew clinging to his shirt and the sound of her laughter ringing in his ears, he knew something had shifted in him. This wasn't just a visit. It was the beginning of a story. And stories always reveal the truth. The next day, the sky over Makoko turned gray. Rain teased the horizon, but the street was already alive with hustle. Amaka's stall smoked with flavor today. It was in Quobi. Just as she wiped her hands on her wrapper, the black SUV returned. Dare stepped out, dressed simply again. This time with an umbrella in one hand and a curiosity he could no longer ignore. "You came back," Amaka said, unimpressed but not unkind. "I couldn't stop thinking about your Nkwobi," Dare replied. "You know they fear pepper?" she teased, scooping the spicy cowfoot dish with expert hands. He sat, this time more comfortable, more connected. Around them, the market bustled, but in the small space of her food stand, it felt like a world apart. Amaka watched him eat with amusement. "You sure say you be Lagos boy? This thing fit humble man." "Maybe that's why I like it," he said. "I'm tired of fake things." The sky cracked, suddenly lightning flashing like a warning. The first drops fell. Amaka quickly dragged a leaking umbrella over them. They huddled close beneath it, stew, steam, and raindrops mixing in the air. "You never talk your name," she said. "Call me Tunde." Dare lied, testing the waters. Amaka studied him. "You day lie small, small, but you get good heart." He smiled, but inside, he was shaken. The way she saw through him without knowing who he was both terrifying and magnetic. The thunder rolled again. And in that brief pause between lightning and laughter, something sacred passed between them. Not love, not yet, but something powerful was stirring. And storms always come before revelation. Rain still danced on the rooftops when Dare noticed it again, the pendant. That same twisted silver feather hanging from Amaka's neck, half tucked beneath her blouse. It shimmered faintly each time she leaned over the fire. He couldn't take his eyes off it. "Nice necklace," he said casually. Amaka touched it instinctively, like a child clutching a secret. "Nah, the only thing my mama left me. I day wear am since I small." Dare's breath caught. His heart pounded louder than the rain. He remembered the sketch in his father's old trunk. A woman with kind eyes, a feather pendant, a love lost and buried in silence. "Could it be? You never take it off?" he asked gently. "Never. Mama say make I protect am. She talk say, one day, go lead me to the truth." Dare leaned back, confused but intrigued. Could she really be the same girl, the one his father searched for secretly before he died? The missing piece of a broken family? Before he could ask more, a loud crash shattered the silence. A pile of metal roofing collapsed near the stall. People screamed. Amaka jumped to her feet, grabbing a little boy out of harm's way. Dare helped too, shielding her with his arms. It was chaos, but for a moment, he felt whole, like he belonged there beside her, protecting her. As the rain faded and calm returned, she turned to him. "You still never talk where you from, Mr. Tunde." He hesitated. "Long story. Maybe I'll tell you, when the time is right." She smiled. "Na so dem they talk for film." But in that moment, both their pasts had just collided. They just didn't know it yet. The rain returned that evening, angrier, louder, darker. Makoko's narrow alleys flooded quickly. Tin roofs groaned under the weight of the storm. But Amaka, ever the warrior, stayed at her stall, covering her pots with old sacks. Dare hadn't planned to return. But his driver pulled up without asking, as if the road itself demanded it. She was there drenched, fighting wind and water, still trying to save her food. He stepped out without an umbrella this time. The rain soaked through his shirt in seconds, but he didn't care. "You again?" Amaka shouted through the downpour. "I told you, I like your food," Dare yelled back, half laughing. She rolled her eyes but motioned him under a crooked canopy made from plastic sheets. It leaked in 3 places, but they huddled close, dripping, shivering, laughing at nothing. A small charcoal stove glowed between them. Amaka used her wrapper to dry her arms. Dare offered her his jacket, clearly designer, clearly expensive. She hesitated, then took it. "Rich man way no sabby him own level," she muttered playfully. "I sabby the level way matters," he replied. "And it's right here, beside you." They sat in silence, watching raindrops race down the plastic above them. Then Dare spoke softly. "Do you believe people can be connected before they even meet?" Amaka looked at him curiously. "Like destiny?" He nodded. "I know," she said. "But sometimes I feel like my mama's spirit they near, guiding me, maybe to something bigger." The words pierced Dare deeper than he expected. As thunder cracked above them, they weren't just 2 strangers anymore. Something invisible had wrapped around them, fragile but real. The storm outside raged on. But beneath that broken shelter, something gentle had begun to grow. Back at his penthouse in Victoria Island, Dare stood by the window, the lights of Lagos glimmering below him like scattered stars. But his mind wasn't on the skyline. It was still in Makoko with Amaka, under that dripping canopy, her laughter echoing in his head like music he couldn't turn off. He poured himself a drink, trying to shake the feeling, but it clung to him like her pepper stew, warm, fierce, unforgettable. Then his phone buzzed. A notification from the security team. His driver, ever curious, had left the dash cam running during Dare's Makoko visits. Dare hadn't noticed until now. Curious, he opened the footage. There she was, Amaka, captured in motion, stirring soup, slapping Chidi's wandering hand away from her meat tray, helping a barefoot child tie his shoelace with her scarf. Dare sat, watching silently, again and again. He should have been angry. He didn't like being recorded without his consent. But instead, something stirred inside him. This wasn't footage. It was a story. A woman. A fighter. A giver. He zoomed in on the screen. The necklace glinted in the background, that same twisted feather. "Who are you, really?" he whispered. Then a knock at the door broke his trance. It was Uncle Sola, his father's closest friend and family lawyer. "We need to talk," Sola said, placing a weathered brown box on the glass table. Dare raised an eyebrow. "What's this?" Sola opened it gently. Inside lay old letters, black and white photos, and a hand-drawn sketch of a silver feather pendant identical to Amaka's. Dare froze. "That pendant belonged to your father's first love," Sola said. "Before your mother. She vanished, with a baby no one could trace." Dare's glass slipped from his hand. Amaka. Was she that child? The next morning in Makoko was like any other smoky air, hungry mouths, clanging pots. Amaka was back at her stall, laughing with customers, her scarf tied high and proud. But peace, as always, never lingered long in her world. Just before noon, 3 black SUVs crawled into the slum like sharks circling prey. They stopped in front of Amaka's stall. Doors opened. 3 men in dark suits stepped out, too polished for the muddy street, too clean for the crowd. Amaka squinted. "Una Miss Road?" One of them stepped forward, flashing a fake smile. "Madam Amaka, we are here on behalf of a very generous client." He handed her an envelope, thick, heavy. She opened it cautiously. 500,000 in cash. Her heart skipped. That was more money than she had seen in her entire life. "We're offering to buy out this spot," the man continued. "You pack up, move away, maybe start a proper business elsewhere. No stress, no trouble." The crowd fell silent. Amaka looked at the cash, then at her stall, then back at the man. "You want make I leave my people?" she asked, voice steady. "This isn't safe for someone like you anymore," he replied smoothly. "There are plans for this land." Amaka's hands tightened. "This stall feed plenty bellies," she said. "You want turn me into person we run for money?" She tossed the envelope back at them. It hit the man's chest and fell to the ground. "Carry your money. I no be sellout." The suits exchanged glances. Their smiles faded. From across the street, Dare sat in an unmarked car, watching everything unfold. He had sent the men not to bribe, but to test her heart. Now, he knew, she couldn't be bought. That evening, long after the suits had left and the sky had turned purple with dusk, Amaka sat quietly beside her cooking pot. The fire had died down, the last customer gone. Her scarf was loose now, her eyes tired. She stared at the twisted feather pendant, rubbing it gently between her fingers. Then, from the corner of her eye, she saw her. An old woman bent, with tribal marks fading into wrinkled skin, stood just beyond the shadows. Her wrapper was faded, her feet bare, but her presence powerful. "Good evening, Mama," Amaka called politely. The woman didn't reply. She took slow steps forward, eyes fixed on Amaka's neck. "That necklace?" she whispered, her voice brittle like dried leaves. "Where did you get it?" Amaka hesitated. "It belonged to my mother." The old woman's knees gave way. She sank to the stool near the fire, trembling. "Your name? It's Amaka?" Amaka's heart thumped. "Yes, Ma." Tears welled in the woman's eyes. "Your mother, her name was Adeyeze. She was a princess. She disappeared years ago, vanished after giving birth in secret. Amaka's lips parted, but no words came.
You look just like her,
the woman said, brushing a trembling hand across Amaka's face. The same fire, the same strength. Amaka shook her head. Princess? No, Mama. I grew up in the slums. My mother left when I was 5. My grandma raised me. But the old woman smiled through her tears. Blood always finds its way home, child. You are more than you know. She rose slowly. You will understand soon, but be careful. There are people who want to erase the past and bury you with it. And with that, she disappeared into the darkness, like a ghost sent to awaken destiny. Dare sat alone in his father's study that night, surrounded by shadows and secrets. The brown box from Uncle Sola still sat open on the desk. Old photographs lay scattered faded images of a beautiful woman with piercing eyes and a silver feather at her throat. Her name was Adeyeze. She was the love of your father's youth, Sola had told him. But the family forbade the union. She was from a village dynasty. He was heir to a Lagos empire. They forced them apart. Dare's voice was low. And the child? She vanished with Adeyeze before your father could claim her. He searched for years, quietly. But your mother wouldn't have it. He gave up. Dare clenched his fists. What if I found her? Sola looked at him, cautious. That pendant. Are you sure? Dare nodded. It's identical. She said her mother disappeared, raised by her grandmother. Sola sighed. If it's true, Amaka isn't just anyone. She's the missing bloodline. And that means… She's my sister? Dare interrupted, his stomach twisting. No, Sola said quickly. Your father met Adeyeze before he married your mother. You share no blood, but her place in this family would change everything. Dare stared at the feather sketch again, heart racing. If Amaka was truly Adeyeze's daughter, it meant she had a right to the Okonjo name, the wealth, the legacy. But it also meant danger. Not everyone in the family would welcome her return. And if the truth got out too soon… She's not ready, Dare whispered. She doesn't even know who she is. Sola nodded. Then protect her, Dare, before someone else finds her first and buries the truth forever. Dare looked out the window, across the city toward Makoko. He had to move fast. Destiny was stirring, and time was running out. The sun rose over Makoko with the smell of burning wood and a hush that felt wrong. Dare arrived early that morning, eager to tell Amaka the truth, or at least some of it. But something was off. Her food stand was gone. The fire pit was cold. Her pot's missing. The bench overturned. Only a few scattered wrappers remained, soaked from the night's rain. Dare rushed to the nearby stalls. Where's Amaka? Mama Risi looked up, concern in her eyes. She never come, but last night, some men came. We hear shouting. By the time we reach, everywhere dawn scatter. Dare's chest tightened. He called her number, switched off. He checked hospitals, nothing. Then his driver handed him something they found near the ashes. It was her pendant. The silver feather cracked, burnt at the edges, broken in half. Dare gripped it, heart pounding. Someone took her. But who? And why? Just as panic rose in his throat, a message arrived on his phone, no sender ID. A single line. Stay out of it, or you'll lose more than a girl. His fingers curled into fists. This wasn't just about Amaka's food stall anymore. Someone had discovered her identity, and they wanted her gone. Forever. Dare paced his living room like a lion in a cage, the broken pendant clenched in his hand. Uncle Sola stood at the window, silent. She's gone, Dare said, voice tight. Kidnapped. They knew. Sola nodded slowly. If they found out who she is, they'll do anything to erase her. That girl is a threat to the legacy. Dare turned, eyes sharp. What legacy? She is the legacy. Sola sighed. You don't understand. Your father's will. If Amaka is proven to be Adeyeze's daughter, she inherits a portion of the estate. A very large portion. Dare froze. Who else knows? Possibly your stepmother, Sola said cautiously. She always suspected your father had a child before you. She never forgave him for it. Dare felt bile rise in his throat. So she had her taken? I can't prove it, Sola whispered. But this is how power protects itself, Dare. Quietly, brutally. Dare clenched his jaw. Then I'll be louder. He turned on his heel, grabbing his keys. Where are you going? Sola called out. To bring her home. But just before Dare could leave, another message arrived. This time, a video. He pressed play. The screen lit up with shaky footage, Amaka, tied to a chair in a dimly lit room. Her scarf was gone, her face bruised, her eyes defiant. A voice behind the camera said, "She doesn't know who she is yet, but if you keep digging, she'll be buried before she ever finds out." Dare's knuckles turned white. This was no longer about romance. It was war. And he would burn down the city if he had to, just to save the humble roadside cook who had unknowingly shaken the kingdom of the powerful. Dare stormed into the Okonjo family estate like a man on fire. The sprawling mansion, once a symbol of wealth and control, now felt like a prison filled with secrets. His stepmother, Madame Ebele, sat on the balcony sipping tea, composed, elegant, dangerous. "I know what you did," Dare said, voice shaking. She looked up, calm. "Good morning to you too." He dropped the pendant on the table. "That girl, she's Adiz's daughter, my father's child. She's family, and you had her taken." Ebele smiled coldly. "You're wrong. I protected this family. That girl was going to destroy everything your father built." "She deserves to know the truth," Dare roared. Ebele leaned in. "And what will you do, Dare? Tear down your name? Give the world a scandal? The press will feast on it. The board will crumble. Investors will flee. Is she worth that?" Dare's eyes burned. "Every damn bit." Ebele's smile cracked just slightly. "You're making a mistake." But then, something clicked in Dare's mind. "Someone helped you," he whispered. "Someone close." Ebele didn't answer. Dare's blood ran cold. He left in a blur, driving back to his penthouse. He hacked into his internal security system, reviewing logs and calls from the past week. And then he saw it. His driver, the same one who had been with him in Makoko, had placed a tracking device under Amaka's table the day of the storm. His hands trembled. "She didn't just vanish," he whispered. "She was hunted from the very beginning." He smashed the laptop shut and reached for his phone. This time he wouldn't rely on lawyers or private calls. He would use his wealth, his power, and if necessary, his fury, because the woman he couldn't forget was running out of time. Dare sat alone in a dimly lit room beneath his penthouse, a hidden office only he used. The walls were lined with monitors, maps, and files. But tonight, all focus was on one thing: finding Amaka. He replayed the video again, this time scanning the background, the flickering bulb, the water stains on the wall, the faint echo of a train horn. "Soundtrack of Ajagunal," he muttered. "She's close." He sent a message to his most trusted ally, Lekin, a former intelligence officer turned fixer. Within an hour, Lekin arrived, tall and cold-eyed, wearing black. "You sure you want to go to war with your family over a girl?" he asked, eyes narrowing. Dare's answer was simple. "She's not just a girl. She's the truth." Lekin nodded once and got to work. Within hours, they had hacked into traffic cameras near the Makoko Bridge and found footage, the black van that took Amaka. It led to an abandoned warehouse near the train tracks. Dare's jaw clenched. "We move tonight." Lekin frowned. "They're expecting a rescue. We need a distraction." Dare nodded. "Then let's give them a reason to panic." Meanwhile, in the dark, cold warehouse, Amaka sat chained, her head against the wall. Her body ached, her lips were cracked, but her spirit was unbroken. She whispered to herself, "You must live, Amaka. Even if no one comes, you must live." But deep in her soul, she knew he was coming. She just didn't know how soon. As the wind howled outside and shadows stretched across the broken concrete floor, a small flame ignited far away, not in the firewood of a food stand, but in the heart of a man who refused to let power silence love. Night fell like a curtain over the slums of Ajagunle. Inside the warehouse, Amaka drifted between hope and fear. Her thoughts wandered to her mother, to the silver pendant, and to Dare the stranger who felt too familiar. The door creaked open. Two men walked in, one with a smirk, the other with a knife. "Your billionaire friend thinks he can play hero," the smirking one said. "But this is where your story ends, Roadside Girl." Amaka sat up straight, though her wrists bled from the chains. "You don't know who I am," she whispered. They laughed. Then a bang. A wall of smoke exploded from the far end of the warehouse. Shouts, flashlights swung wildly. Confusion spread like wildfire. From the shadows, Dare and Lekin emerged in tactical gear, silent and precise. One guard dropped. Another tried to flee. Dare caught him with a pipe to the ribs. Amaka could barely see through the smoke, but she heard the voice. "Amaka," her heart stuttered. "Dare?" He rushed to her, kneeling. "I told you I'd come." Her eyes welled. "You shouldn't have. I would have come through hell if I had to." Lakin covered them. "We have 90 seconds. Dare broke her chains with bolt cutters, then lifted her into his arms. Gunfire cracked behind them as they escaped through a side door into a stolen van. Breathless, shaking, free. Inside the van, Amaka sobbed into Dare's chest. "Why would anyone want to hurt me?" He held her tightly. "Because you're more powerful than you know." Outside, fire engulfed the warehouse behind them. But in that van, a different fire burned between a billionaire and a girl who had once only asked for peace beside a cooking pot. Dawn broke gently over Lagos. But inside the safe house on Banana Island, the air was thick with silence. Amaka sat on the edge of a plush bed, wrapped in a soft blanket, still wearing Dare's jacket. The world outside had changed. So had hers. Dare knelt before her, his voice low. "There's something I need to tell you, and I'm sorry I didn't say it earlier." She looked up, guarded. "What?" He pulled out the sketch from the brown box, the twisted silver feather. Amaka's breath caught. "That pendant," he said, "belonged to my father's first love, a woman named Adeyes." "My mother's name," Amaka whispered, fingers trembling. Dare nodded. "You're her daughter, which means you're part of my family." Amaka's heart twisted. No, that's not possible. I'm just a girl who sells food on the street." He shook his head. "You're more than that. You're an Okonjo." She rose to her feet, pacing. "So, all this your kindness? Your visits, was it pity?" "No," Dare said quickly, standing. "It was real. I didn't know who you were when I first met you. I just knew you mattered." Tears filled Amaka's eyes. "They tried to erase me." "They still might," he said. "But now, they'll have to go through me." A knock interrupted them. It was Uncle Sola holding legal documents. "The DNA confirms it," he said. "She's the rightful heir to a quarter of the Okonjo fortune." Amaka felt the floor shift beneath her. Rich? Powerful? It didn't feel real. But the pendant around her neck, now whole again after Dare had it repaired, glowed like a seal of destiny. She wasn't just the girl beside the fire anymore. She was the fire, and the world would soon feel her heat. The name, Amaka Adeze Okonjo, spread like wildfire across Lagos society. Blogs erupted. Television stations speculated. The headlines screamed, "Roadside cook turns out to be billionaire heiress. Long-lost daughter of Adeze returns to claim inheritance." Some called it a scandal. Others called it fate. But in the Okonjo mansion, Madame Ebele's hands shook as she tore through the morning paper. "She's still alive?" she hissed. "This girl was supposed to disappear." In the boardroom of Okonjo Group, the directors whispered. Some feared losing control. Others wondered if the humble cook could become the new face of the empire. Back at the safe house, Amaka sat quietly, staring out at the lagoon. Her heart felt heavy. She had everything, and yet nothing felt normal. Dare entered with 2 mugs of tea. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "Why does the world suddenly feel colder now that I'm richer?" He sat beside her. "Because power makes enemies. But it also reveals the truth. I don't want the money," she said softly. "I just want my life back. My food stand, my people." "You can have both," he said. You can use your new voice to protect what matters. You're not just rich, Amaka. You're respected now, feared even. She looked at him, uncertain. But I'm not like them, he smiled. Exactly. That's why they're afraid. Then, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. If you claim the Okonjo name publicly, you'll regret it. Amaka looked up, her jaw tight. They want to scare me back into silence. Dare placed a hand over hers. Then speak louder, he said. Let them choke on your truth. And for the first time in her life, Amaka didn't feel small. She felt dangerous. 1 week later, the Okonjo boardroom was packed lawyers, shareholders, family members, and whispers so thick they hung in the air like fog. At the head of the table sat Dare, calm and unreadable. And beside him, dressed in an elegant white native gown and a jewel that framed her face like a crown, stood Amaka. The room buzzed. She can't be here. She's not trained. She's just a cook. But Amaka's eyes were steady. She had seen chaos in the markets of Makoko. This room didn't scare her. Uncle Sola rose with a firm voice. Per the will of the late Chief Okonjo, Miss Amaka Adayez Okonjo has a legal claim to 25% of this company and a seat at this table. A vote was called. 15 members, 1 seat. Tension thickened. Dare leaned toward Amaka. No matter how they vote, I'm with you. But just as the votes began, one voice spoke up from the shadows. I object. All eyes turned to the door. It was Amaka's grandmother, frail, but fierce, led in by 2 guards. Amaka's eyes widened. Mama? The old woman glared at Sola. This girl is not an Okonjo. She was never born from a daisy. It was a lie to disgrace us. Gasps filled the room. Amaka stumbled backward, her heart racing. What are you saying? She's not your mother, the woman spat. You were adopted as a baby. We kept it hidden to protect you. But now you've dragged our name through dirt. Tears welled in Amaka's eyes. Everything she believed gone in a breath. But before the silence could swallow her, Dare stood. I don't care what blood runs in her veins. I've seen who she is, and I vote yes. Then, one by one, others followed. Yes, yes, yes. The board had spoken, not because of her name, but because Amaka had become something even greater, a voice too loud to ignore. The boardroom emptied slowly, but Amaka remained seated, her mind a storm of confusion. Her grandmother's words echoed in her head. You were adopted, not Adaise's child. So who was she? Not an Okonjo by blood, not a princess, just a girl from the street. An orphan with no roots, no royal blood, no right to the empire she had just inherited. She felt like a fraud. Dare walked back in, watching her quietly. She looked up at him. They'll never truly accept me now. He knelt beside her. Then make them respect you, not because of your name, but because of what you do with it. Tears shimmered in her eyes. What am I, Dare, if I'm not a Daisy's daughter? He placed a hand on her heart. You are fire. You are strength. You are every woman who was told she didn't belong and rose anyway. Silence. Then Amaka stood. She walked back into the empty boardroom, tore off the nameplate that said Amaka Okonjo, and replaced it with a handwritten one. Amaka. Just Amaka. Later that day, news broke that Amaka had refused the Okonjo title, but would lead the company's new charity division, investing millions into grassroots food programs, free kitchens, and vocational training for women. Makoko rejoiced. Street kids danced. Mama Risi cried. Her old stand was rebuilt bigger, better, and renamed Amaka's Table. And across the city, people whispered her name not with envy, but with admiration. She had worn the crown and removed it herself, because she didn't need blood to rule. She just needed purpose. And now her fire fed thousands. It was raining again, in Makoko. Not the angry storm of loss, but the gentle kind, the one that cleanses, the one that whispers, you made it. Amaka stood beneath a faded umbrella, watching the firewood crackle beneath her pot. The scent of okra stew danced with the wind. Her scarf was back on, tied like before, but now it was a crown. She wasn't there to cook for survival anymore. She was there for memory. For the girl she used to be. For the people who still stood in line, waiting not just for food, but for hope. Then, through the mist, a familiar SUV rolled in. Dare stepped out. No umbrella. Soaked to the bone just like the first time. She turned, smiling. "You again?" "I heard the stew was spicy," he said, walking toward her. "You still can't handle pepper," she teased. "I can handle fire now, especially yours." The street kids giggled nearby. Mama Reese peered through her window. Dare reached into his pocket and pulled out a small black box. Amaka's breath caught. "You don't carry the Okonjo name," he said, kneeling on the muddy street. "But you carry the strength of a queen, and if you'll have me, I want to build every pot, every table, every future with you." She stared at him, speechless. Not because of the ring, but because he saw her, truly, fully, completely. Tears mixed with rain on her cheeks. "Yes, Dare, yes." He stood and kissed her, right there in the rain, while the people of Makoko cheered like royalty had just been crowned. Because they had. Two hearts and worlds apart had found their way home, not through blood, but through love. 1 year later, the city no longer whispered her name. It sang it. Amaka, not as an heiress, not as a charity leader, but as a woman who changed lives with her bare hands and an open heart. The Makoko slum now had a school built with Okonjo Group funds, a clinic, a clean water well, all named after forgotten people, street children, cooks, mothers who died in silence. And at the center of it all stood a building made of glass and stone, the Amaka Foundation. Inside, there was a wall of photographs of her old stall, her pot, her food, her people. At the center of that wall hung a silver pendant, the feather, polished and whole again. A symbol of everything lost and everything found. Dare and Amaka now lived between two worlds, the boardroom and the streets. One day in heels, the next barefoot. One day in suits, the next in aprons. And both felt like home. On the anniversary of her reappearance, Amaka lit a fire at her rebuilt stall. Not to cook, but to remember. People gathered in silence. She dropped a piece of wood into the flame and whispered, "This fire fed my body when the world gave me scraps. It warmed my heart when no one knew my name. It reminded me that I was never just a cook. I was always a builder. Of hope, of love, of destiny." Dare stood beside her, holding her hand, pride in his eyes. And as the fire cracked, glowed, and danced beneath the moon, the world seemed to pause. In a place once forgotten by maps, a queen without a crown, a billionaire without arrogance, and a fire without a name had rewritten the story. Together, forever. Did you learn anything from this story? Let me know in the comment section. Tell me everything you learned from this story. Please leave your answers and join the conversation below in the comment section. If you enjoyed watching and listening to this story, then click on that like button and subscribe to this channel now so that you can see more of my interesting stories and folktales. Thank you so much for watching this video to this very end. Click on any of the video links above to watch more of my interesting stories on this channel.